The Indian independence movement was a movement from 1857 until 15 August 1947, when India got independence from the British Raj. The movement spanned a total of 190 years. It lasted from 1757 till 1947.
Can you describe the atmosphere at Birla House when you saw Gandhiji? How many people were there and what was the...
Hundreds of people, even those days, hundreds of people were.
What was the reason for you to go there?
Because my background was there, na? So, although I didn't know him personally, I did not meet him, but I was worshipping him, like, na? He was like a leader like that. All very selfless people. So, that was the attraction.
So you wanted just to see him? You wanted to see him? You went to see him
I
at
never
Birla House?
bothered about seeing him. I bothered about hearing what he says on there.
Okay.
Nothing else, no.
And how was that? Did you hear him speaking there?
Not I alone, myself. Hundreds of people were attending his prayer meeting every evening. Every meeting we were there. And after meeting was over, he will come out and his hands with two ladies like this and working. A great man.
But what did it mean for you?
And first I saw Gandhiji, you know where? In 1934, you must have heard there was a big earthquake in Bihar. Gandhiji went there near my village to see how people have suffered and all that. And I was hardly in fifth standard, 1934. I was fourth standard. The fall, as if the pandal will fall. So he had to go back to Darbhanga from where he had come.
I see.
Mahatma Gandhi was the foremost political leader of the Indian independence movement. For over 2 decades, Gandhi led a peaceful independence movement characterized by non-violent protests such as boycotts and the Salt March. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was an Indian nationalist leader. Netaji raised a united Indian army of all religious faiths in an attempt to gain independence for India through military means. The Indian National Army was an armed force formed by Subhash Chandra Bose and Ras Behari Bose in 1942 in Southeast Asia during World War II. Its aim was to secure Indian independence from British rule.
On the 18th of August 1945, 3 days after Japan's surrender to the Allies, the Indian nationalist leader Subhash Chandra Bose embarked on a flight to freedom. He was worshipped by millions. Tens of thousands were prepared to give their lives for him. Rubbing shoulders with the Nazis, Bose had only one goal: to kick the British out of India, even if it meant shaking hands with the devil. Beaten on the battlefield, Bose was heading for the Soviet Union. But his flight never arrived at its destination. The plane crashed. Bose died, or so the official version goes.
Unconditional dedication to a cause which they showed, I think, makes them very unusual people. After decades of not having seen my father, they still hold an emotional tie to him, which is almost unbelievable.
In 1944, 40,000 of them had marched from Singapore to the jungles of India, together with the Japanese.
A man with unlimited courage. A man with a distant vision. a man who felt for the millions of people of India.
For many Indians, Subhas Chandra Bose has a unique place in history. He was the only nationalist leader who confronted the British Empire on the battlefield. He moved to Calcutta. It fully struck him how British rule was ultimately racist, and how Indians were discriminated against by their European masters.
There was one club. It was meant for only for Europeans, not for others. Asiatics nahi, Indian nahi. So on the gate it was written, dogs and Indians are not allowed.
Bhagat Singh was among the prominent revolutionaries who shaped the base of a grand national movement. Following his execution on March 23, 1931, the supporters and followers of Bhagat Singh regarded him as a Shaheed martyr. The British authority, while interrogating them, came to know about their involvement in the murder of J.P. Saunders. Bhagat Singh, Rajguru and Sukhdev were charged with the murder. Singh admitted to the murder and made statements against the British rule during the trial. While in jail, Bhagat Singh found that the authorities were following a dual policy in treating the prisoners. The criminals of foreign origin were treated better than the Indian political prisoners. As a protest, he, along with some fellow prisoners, declared to go on hunger strike. The strike continued for over a month, and finally the British had to accept before their conditions. Bhagat Singh, along with other revolutionaries, found responsible for the assembly bombing and murder of Saunders. On March 23, 1931, Bhagat Singh was hanged in Lahore with his fellow friends Rajguru and Sukhdev. The Battle of Plassey was a major battle that took place on 23rd June 1757 at Plassey, Bengal. It was a well-planned battle by the British on India. It was an important British East India Company victory over the Nawab of Bengal and his French allies. It let the British East India Company take control of a part of South Asia. They knew their area of control over a large part of the Indies for the next 100 years. After the defeat of Tipu Sultan, most of South India was now either under the company's direct rule or under its indirect political control.
During the British Raj, there was unrest and discontent amongst the people of India. The Hindu soldiers protested against the addition of Gurkha, Sikh and lower caste soldiers to their ranks. The use of animal grease on the cartridges of the newly introduced Enfield rifles was the last straw. While loading the rifles, soldiers had to bite off the end of the cartridges. It was made up of either pig or cow fat, which violated the religious sentiments of the Muslim and Hindu soldiers. In 1857, 3 regiments of the army refused to use the ammunition of the Enfield rifles and demanded that Bahadur Shah Zafar take over as the ruler of India and the head of the rebels. Mangal Pandey is one of the most famous figures of this uprising who attacked the British regiment. He was later arrested and hanged. This uprising came to be known as the Sepoy Mutiny or the Revolt of 1857. Soon after, another regiment revolted. 90,000 men from the Bengal army joined the mutiny. After suffering major losses in Kanpur and Lucknow, the British sought the help of the loyal Sikh and Gurkha forces and managed to ward off the army of rebels near Delhi. In response to the mutiny, the British Parliament passed an act abolishing the East India Company. India became a crown colony to be governed by the British Parliament directly. In the following year, the title of Viceroy was bestowed upon the Governor-General of India by Queen Victoria. She introduced a policy of divide and rule, which prevented Indians from uniting to rebel against her.
On April 13th, thousands of people gathered in Jallianwala Bagh, Amritsar to celebrate this festival of Baisakhi. On hearing this, General Reginald Dyer, suspecting an uprising, went to the venue with soldiers and opened fire without any warning. According to official sources, 379 were killed and 1,100 were wounded. The non-cooperation movement was launched to resist British occupation in India through non-violent means. Mahatma Gandhi encouraged fellow Indians to boycott British goods and use Indian-made products to revitalize local economies. He also urged them to shun British titles and honors, educational institutions, and justice systems, and give up government jobs. The movement was met with widespread support, but had to be called off as it became violent. On February 5, 1922, 3 people were killed as the police opened fire on protesters in Chauri Chaura. In retaliation, the mob set fire to a police station in which 22 policemen were killed. Shortly after, on March 1922, Gandhi was arrested and sentenced to 6 years of imprisonment on a charge of sedition. He was released after 2 years and withdrew from politics. The Salt March, also known as the Dandi March and the Salt Satyagraha, was a march initiated by Gandhi to illegally produce salt from seawater. It began on 12 March 1930 and was a direct action campaign of tax resistance and non-violent protest against the British salt monopoly in colonial India. Imperialist nations were once again engaged in a world war from the late 1930s. Sensing uncertainties in the outcome of the war, Gandhi raised the Quit India slogan. On August 8, 1942, the Indian National Congress adopted the historic Quit India resolution, which called for an immediate ending of British rule in India. Most of the political parties, government bodies, and princely states rejected the movement, and any Indian National Congress leaders, including Gandhi, were arrested.
Clement Attlee, the then Prime Minister of the British, finally declared that India would be granted independence. In 1947, the Muslim League launched Direct Action Day. Its purpose was to convey that an undivided India would no longer be possible. On June 3, 1947, Lord Mountbatten, the last British Governor-General in India, announced the partitioning of India into a secular India and a Muslim Pakistan. On August 14, 1947, Pakistan was declared as a separate nation with Muhammad Ali Jinnah as its leader. On August 15, 1947, at the stroke of midnight, India was declared an independent nation. This joyous period was also scarred with violent clashes between Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs. At least 1,000 people were said to have been killed during this period. Around 11 million Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs crossed borders. In the midst of all this confusion and bloodshed, Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru requested Lord Mountbatten to continue as the Governor General until the next year, when he would be replaced by Rajgopalachari. The year following independence, Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated. The entire nation mourned his death. 2 years following Gandhi's death, the Constitution of India was drafted, and on 26th January 1950, the Republic of India was proclaimed. The state of Goa still remained under Portuguese rule even after independence. However, on December 19, 1961, it was annexed to India when the Indian Army, backed by the Air Force, ended the Portuguese rule.